Chapter 15, the Muscular System, Part 2. Here's a table of different skeletal muscles. And these are visible in your textbook in Table 15.31. And I just give some wonderful names of various muscles. I did ask you to recognize some of these in your quiz this week, but this is not the class where you're going to be memorizing these muscles or locating them, other than on your body in a previous lab, and perhaps is association with your bones. And then in the quiz, I'm asking you for a few. But those of you who are going on to a kind of a more formal anatomy and physiology sequence, you're going to have plenty of time to look at these muscles and be able to place them and identify them on the human body. Skeletal muscle is muscle tissue attached to bones by tendons, which are bundles of collagen fibers. Whether you are moving your eyes or running a marathon, you are using skeletal muscles. Contractions of skeletal muscles are voluntary, which means they're under conscious control of the central nervous system via the somatic nervous system. Skeletal muscle tissue is the most common type of muscle tissue in the human body. By weight, an average adult male is about 42% skeletal muscles, and the average adult female about 36%. To move bones in opposite directions, skeletal muscles often consist of muscle pairs that work in opposition to one another. For example, when the biceps muscle on the front of the upper arm contracts, it causes the elbow joint to flex or bend at the arm. When the triceps muscle on the back of the upper arm contracts, it can cause the elbow to extend or straighten the arm. The biceps and triceps muscles are examples of a muscle pair where the muscles work in opposition to each other. You can feel this on your body. It's really interesting to actually locate muscles on your body. Skeletal muscle structure. And now we get into more of the microscopic view for now. Each skeletal muscle consists of perhaps thousands of skeletal muscle fibers, which are long string-like cells. Skeletal muscle fibers are individually wrapped in connective tissue called endomysium. The skeletal muscle fibers are bundled together in units called muscle fascicles, surrounded by sheaths of connective tissue called perimysium. Each fascicle contains between 10 and more than 100 skeletal muscle fibers. So we have this bundling structure, which we'll see as a pattern. Fascicles, in turn, are bundled together to form individual skeletal muscles, which are wrapped in connective tissue called epimysium. The connective tissues in skeletal muscles have a variety of functions. They support and protect muscle fibers, allowing them to withstand contraction forces by distributing the forces applied to the muscle. They also provide pathways for nerves and blood vessels to reach the muscles. Also, the epimysium anchors the muscles to tendons. And we can see this really cool sequence here where we have the connective tissue on the surface of this muscle, of this whole muscle, which is composed of fascicles. You can see the bundle of fascicles enclosed in this epimysium membrane. And then look how the membrane then interfaces with the bone. So the membrane really, this little section right here is really interesting microscopically because it goes from muscle tissue. You can see the muscle tissue with the striations. And then right over here, then if you're looking at the microscope slide, you'd see that more of a connective tissue style with the widely spaced cells and fibers. So it's a really important junction right here. But this bundling effect, you can see, is giving strength to that muscle by taking smaller units and combining them into a larger unit. Skeletal muscle structure. The same bundles within bundles structure is replicated within each muscle fiber, which is also called a muscle cell. A muscle fiber consists of a bundle of myofibrils, which are themselves bundles of protein filaments. These protein filaments consist of thin filaments of the protein actin, anchored to structures called Z-discs, and thick filaments of the protein myosin. The filaments are arranged together within a myofibril in repeating units called sarcomeres, and we'll take a look at this in a minute. These sarcomeres run from one Z disc to the next. The sarcomere is the basic functional unit of skeletal and cardiac muscles. It contracts as actin and myosin filaments slide over one another. Skeletal muscle tissue is said to be striated because it appears to be striped, or is striped. It has this appearance because of the regular alternating dark, which are A bands, and light, which are I bands, of filaments arranged in sarcomeres inside the muscle fibers. Skeletal muscle fibers are multinucleated and have about 50 to 200 mitochondria. So here we have our muscle cell. And you can see there are multiple nuclei on this. We can see that this is a bundling form, right? With the myofibrils bundled into this muscle fiber. And then if we look at the myofibril itself, this is where the stripiness comes in. So we have the Z disc, which is the definite functional unit of the muscle from Z disc to Z disc there. The I bands, which are light, and the A bands, which are dark. And then we'll see how this unit then functions to shorten or lengthen based on the actin, these thin actin filaments, and the thicker myosin filaments moving across one another. It's kind of like if you were to put your fingers together and with the palms of your hands facing you and just moved your hands toward, against each other and toward the sides of your body, and then you pull them back to the center of your body. You can see your arms are actually lengthening and shortening by the overlapping of your hands. That's how this works. Slow and fast twitch muscle fibers. Skeletal muscle fibers can be divided into two types, slow twitch or type 1 and fast twitch or type 2. Proportions of fiber types vary considerably from muscle to muscle and from person to person. Individuals may be genetically predisposed to have a larger percentage of one type than another. Slow twitch muscle fibers. Slow twitch muscle fibers are dense with capillaries and rich in mitochondria and myoglobin. Now, when you see that something is rich in mitochondria, then you know that there's a lot of ATP that's getting made there for some particular purpose. Myoglobin is a protein that stores oxygen until needed for muscle activity. Relative to fast twitch fibers, slow twitch fibers can carry more oxygen and sustain aerobic activity. Slow twitch fibers can contract for long periods of time, but not with very much force. They are relied upon primarily in endurance events such as distance running or cycling. Fast twitch muscle fibers. These fibers contain fewer capillaries and mitochondria and less myoglobin. This type of muscle fiber can contract rapidly and powerfully, but it fatigues more quickly. Fast twitch fibers can sustain short anaerobic, which is non-oxygen using, bursts of activity. Relative to slow twitch fibers, fast twitch fibers contribute more to muscle strength and have a greater potential for increasing mass. They are relied upon primarily in short, strenuous events such as sprinting or weightlifting. So you can see that it would be beneficial to have a combination of both. But some people have more fast and some people have more slow. Smooth muscle. The cells that make up smooth muscle are generally called myocytes. Unlike the muscle fibers of striated muscle, the myocytes of smooth muscle tissue do not have their filaments arranged in sarcomeres. Therefore, smooth tissue is not striated. However, the myocytes of smooth muscle still contain myofibrils, which contain bundles of myosin and actin filaments. The filaments still cause contractions when they slide over each other. Functions of smooth muscle. Unlike striated muscle, smooth muscle can sustain very long contractions. Smooth muscle can also stretch and still maintain its contractile function, which striated muscle cannot, beyond a certain point. It doesn't stretch as much as a smooth muscle would. An extracellular matrix secreted by myocytes enhances the elasticity of smooth muscles. The matrix consists of elastin, collagen, and other stretchy fibers. The ability to stretch and still contract is an important attribute of smooth muscle in organs such as the stomach and uterus, both of which must stretch considerably as they perform their normal functions. Locations of smooth muscle. The following list indicates where many smooth muscles are found. Walls of gastrointestinal tract, walls of air passages, walls of organs of the male and female reproductive tracts, walls of the urinary system structures, walls of blood vessels, walls of lymphatic vessels, and around the erector pili in the skin, which are little muscles in the skin, smooth muscle that raise the hair in follicles in the dermis as a response to the cold or fear sometimes. Cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle is found only in the wall of the heart. It's also called myocardium. The myocardium is enclosed within connective tissues, including the endocardium on the inside and the pericardium on the outside. When cardiac muscle contracts, the heart beats and pumps blood. Contraction of cardiac muscle is voluntary, like those of smooth muscles. Involuntary, like those of smooth muscles. They are controlled by electrical impulses from specialized cardiac muscle cells in the heart in an area called the sinoatrial node. So these are special little, they're not exactly nerve cells, but they are muscle cells that create electrical impulses. And that means they have organelles inside of them that produce substances that are very similar to neurotransmitters. Like skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle is striated because its filaments are arranged in sarcomeres inside the muscle fibers. However, in cardiac muscle, the myofibrils are branched at irregular angles rather than arranged in parallel rows, as they are in skeletal muscle. This explains why the two types looked very different from each other. The cells of cardiac muscle tissue are arranged in interconnected networks. I like to describe this as a basket. This arrangement allows rapid transmission of electrical impulses, which stimulate virtually simultaneous contractions of the cells. This enables the cells to coordinate contractions of the heart muscle. The heart is the muscle that performs the greatest amount of physical work in a lifetime. Although the heart's power output is much less than the maximum power output of some other muscles, the heart does its work continuously over an entire lifetime without rest. The cardiac muscle contains many mitochondria, which produce ATP for energy and help the heart resist fatigue. So a muscle will fatigue when it runs out of ATP. If you have plenty of ATP, then your muscles will not fatigue as early. How do you get ATP? Well, you need to be breathing in oxygen, so you can make ATP through your electron transport system. That's the same slide. Sorry about that.